Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. Now just say it with me. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. That, the Masters theme song. It is Masters Thursday at Augusta. The rain has come through Augusta National Golf Club. It has delayed our start, but in the next hour, they will tee off in the opening round of the first major championship of this season, the 2024 Masters. We've got some Masters thoughts, bets, and breakdowns coming your way up next.
Yeah, I'm excited for this, too, because, again, it's a rite of passage in the spring. Now, granted, we're not getting the weather we hoped for to start this tournament, but if you look, extended forecast, Ben, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the bloom on the azaleas, the sun, the no clouds, the guys getting after it, and also those roars that go back and forth between holes 15, 16, 17, and 18. They're all going to be there. We're not going to get a washout tournament. So if we have to delay just a little bit, you know what I want to delay? To start the tournament here. We don't need any delays throughout the tournament itself, breaking up momentum. It's the perfect way to do it. And also soften up that golf course a little bit today. Let's get some scoring going out there.
And they dried it out in the days leading up to this opening round. First tee balls will be off at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time at hole number 1 at Augusta National Golf Club. As in this second hour, we make sure to welcome in our SportsGrid radio audience. He is Donnie. I am Ben. You are watching and listening to us live on Sirius XM channel 159 all across our SportsGrid radio network. But if you want Masters coverage, Sirius XM is the only place on radio to hear golf's most prestigious event, the Masters. Hear shot-by-shot coverage of the Masters live from Augusta National Golf Club on Masters Radio. That's Sirius XM Channel 92. Sirius XM Channel 92 in the car and on the all-new Sirius XM app. So let's give you the odds perspective before they get underway today on this Thursday at Augusta. The big three, led by really one of the shorter prices you will see entering a major championship, Scottie Scheffler, Green Jacket winner back in 2022. Green Jacket winner a year ago in 2023. That was Jon Rahm. Scheffler at 4-1. Again, he is more than half the price of the rest of the field, but Rory McIlroy has that second best number by himself, 10-1. Rahm, third best price, plus 1,100. $1 of movement in Rory's way, DRS, from when he was tied alongside Rahm yesterday at 11-1.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch it play out to start this tournament because, as we know, it's a long 4 days at the Masters. You play well on Thursday, you play well on Friday, you still got that weekend pressure to deal with. And also, as we talk about that pressure, the reason why we love the Masters also, not only is it a beautiful golf course, it's played there every year, the tradition of it, it's great, and obviously the weather usually is fantastic, but we like to see the superstars win this. And also, when you have golf courses, let's say the Masters, Ben, rotated from between like 10 golf courses, every 10 years, like it's the Super Bowl, it comes back around to Augusta. It's not the case. And that's what we like because a lot of these golfers, particularly the superstars, have played here 50, 75, hundreds of times here. They know this golf course like the back of their hand and they can execute. So we don't get very many surprises here. The surprises will come like, hey, my first time at Augusta, I'm actually going to win. That usually doesn't happen because you have to know the intricacies of every single green, where to place the golf ball. It's a true test of golf. So that's why we love to see the leaderboard. Scheffler, McIlroy, Rahm, Schauffele, Koepka, superstars top to bottom. But the one thing that really sticks out this weekend, no matter what telecast you are watching or any network, it's everybody going like, wow. We know Scottie Scheffler is really good. He's playing in the deepest field in golf right now, and he's a 4-1 price to win this, and nobody's plus 450, plus 470, or 5-1. The next closest golfer is Rory McIlroy at a 10-1 price. So we're trying to quantify, is he that much better than the field here? Because he's going to have to be in a deep field playing the same conditions as everybody else. I don't know if I want to play that price, but at the same time, we look back at teams like UConn. Donnie, they're the best. Just take them there. The money will pay out at the end. Are we going to be fools when we tell you today that Scottie Scheffler is probably the best player in this tournament, but I can't bet him because that price is just too low? Only to have Scheffler with a 3-shot lead sitting on 16. You're like, why didn't we just bet this guy? He's going to walk away with the victory at the Masters.
DRS, it's a great point. We really felt that UConn, despite being in the East region and having a difficult path, as we tried to break down a team that could upset Connecticut, all throughout the big dance, we're like, maybe matchup advantages were not there. So it felt like the price was always justified for Connecticut, even if it felt like you could not bet it. Same kind of thing for Scottie Scheffler. I expect to see Scottie in the final round on Sunday in one of the last three groups in contention come the back nine. And oh, by the way, for the weather forecast, it's going to be windy the next couple of days after this rainstorm has kind of come through. 15 to 20 miles per hour, pretty much sustained on both Thursday and Friday. But Saturday, 77 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Sunday, 84 degrees on the forecast, not a cloud in the sky. It could bring a tear to your eye looking at a backsplash sunshine on Augusta at the back nine on a Sunday. That is the beauty of a major championship known as the Masters. And I expect Scottie Scheffler to be there. Are you going to have a time betting this live where that number is longer than 4-1 and you can feel justified? I'm not so sure. It might come today, and keep an eye on those tee times. Scottie, in his opening two rounds, will be paired with Rory McIlroy at 1:12 p.m. Eastern Time. They go off alongside Xander Schauffele. John Rahm out in the group in front of them, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. A former Green Jacket winner in Sergio Garcia. He's one of the first marquee groups that will go off. Again, the delay today, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, is our first group off. Sergio at 11:42 alongside Chris Kirk, and Ryan Fox. That's the group that we have in group number 7. Splash the odds. They don't really matter. They're not going to factor into this. Group number 9, Phil Mickelson, who finished in a tie for second last year at 52 years old, is 270-1 to win outright. He is favored to miss the cut and not see the weekend. I don't know. If you believe in Tiger making a run because you just know Augusta, Philly Mick might be able to do the same.
Yeah, and again, these guys have played here a long time. It's why you still give an advantage and say, hey, look, Tiger, even though he's pretty much broken down right now, can he scrape together 4 rounds? This is a tournament to do it. This is where he won his last major when nobody thought he was going to win another major championship. And the same thing with Phil Mickelson, as you pointed out last year. But the bigger question has been the pricing at the Masters here at concession stands. You want sandwiches? Egg salad, $1.50. Pimento cheese, $1.50. The Masters Club seat, $3. Can we fly down there and get lunch here? Lunch on me today with these prices. Come on. Man.
I mean, think about that, man. True. That fast, breaking the fast with that lunch, you could stack it up. We'll have plenty from Augusta. Is Rick Horrow at Augusta? We'll find out on the other side of the break, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. It's Masters Thursday.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals, saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live from Augusta National Golf, not quite Augusta National Golf Club, but live from Augusta, Georgia, across the street from Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. That is Rick Horrow. You can hear all the patrons starting to make their way across.
What are you watching?
Donnie, take the intro.
Yeah, come on. What are you watching?
Take the intro.
Look, your show, my segment. Shut up for a minute. Let me set the scene because it's important. First of all, wrong side. You are correct. I will send you 2 smelly pimento cheese sandwiches, snail mail. You guys will get them next week. I know you're begging for the cheap prices, and that's what I'm going to get you guys. Second, here are some times you ought to know you can only get to now. 9:30 in about 17 minutes. Patron gates open. All the people try to plant their seats where they want to sit, and they'll run over each other. 10:10, Jack and Watson and Gary Player are the honorary starters, right? Gary, by the way, it's another important thing, is on my on the record show. I'm promoting it. He was interviewed. Great thing. This drops this week. 167 wins. Wow. The only guy, by the way, to win Grand Slam, majors, and seniors. The only human being to do that. Career Grand Slam. Then 10:30, the tee time start. We already talked about that. Around 1 o'clock, we got the sweet guys, Rahm, we've got McIlroy, we got Scheffler, and then 3:54, Tiger, 26th Masters. I'm getting old, man. That is incredible. Wow. 26th. And then the other issue we ought to keep note of, sunset, 7:56. Tiger probably won't finish, but last night when I left there, you looked at the radar, there was going to be a washout until 2 or 3 o'clock, which meant Tiger would play 36 tomorrow. Fred Ridley, Masters chairman, points to the sky. Your part of the storm goes right. Your part of the storm goes left. They didn't get the deluge. They got rain. But everybody was thinking about a 1 or 2 o'clock start today. Last night, 7:10 this morning, the times were moved up considerably to 10:30. A sigh of relief to everybody. How's that?
A sigh of relief. Rick Horrow comes with his report live right here on the Thursday of the Masters on the early line. If you are trying to get to Augusta and you are watching the show, you got to get over there now. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. The gates open for the patrons. So, Rick, let's talk about Tiger Woods. You mentioned it. Just before 4 p.m. Eastern time, he will tee off in his opening round. Even playing all 4 rounds at Augusta would be some sort of an accomplishment for Tiger, who was trying to make the cut for his 24th straight year at the Masters. That would pass Gary Player, who he tied last year, and Fred Couples for the cut record at the Masters. You've been around Augusta this week. You've been walking the grounds. What is the vibe around Tiger Woods as he gets ready for his 26th start at the Masters?
The only guy that cares about the cut record is Gary Player. He's out there, by the way, right now. I know this. He's limbering up. what he wants to do at 10:10, less than an hour from now, is he doesn't care how far he hits the ball. He just cares he hits the ball farther than Tom Watson or Jack Nicklaus. Probably Jack Nicklaus is going to be easy for him to do. But so the whole idea of Tiger and the cut is more important about ratings for Saturday and Sunday, and the storylines abound. I will tell you just a couple of other things from the Ridley press conference yesterday. So Tiger, obviously, don't bet against him. That's the answer to that. But a couple of other report things. Fred Ridley, the chairman of Augusta National, says in his lifetime there may be an 8,000-yard Masters. So you long hitters, get ready. It's just the sign of the times.
Wow.
The other thing, he's honoring Vern Lundquist, right? 40 years. This is last year. Sean McManus, chairman of CBS Sports, steps down after this Masters. His dad, you know who he was, Jim McKay, called the first Masters in 1956. I was 1 year old, and for the first 10 years of my life, I watched with my dad until he passed. And it's a rite of passage. All of us are doing the same thing. You brought a tear to my eye. You really did, as you described the scene. If people want to get here early, here's the other thing. The about $4 million, they won't admit it, of merchandise sold over the weekend. $16,000 a second. And there is a new deal. The garden gnomes for the last 7 years. If you buy a garden gnome, you can flip it $50. You flip it on eBay for about $700. But they cut off the sales at 9 o'clock. So if you're in early, run, get your garden gnome, bring it back to the car, and then go. Good information.
And perfect segue here to Ricky ratings and what we expect to hear out of the women's and the men's tournament in college basketball over the weekend. If you got there early, which you were able to watch early on Sunday afternoon, you caught a game between the women's championship that almost had 19 million viewers. If you caught the game late on Monday, you were probably asleep. So we only got close to 15 million viewers. The women smoked the men's tournament here, Rick. Why did that? I know why it happened. I just need your example of why it happened.
Why did it happen? Because it was better basketball. A, Caitlin Clark. B, more parity. C, there's no UConn in that bracket, although South Carolina, you could make the argument, but Iowa hung with them for a while. There was nothing better, I guarantee you, than coming up here, playing the golf course that the Gamecocks play on Monday, but watching the game here in Columbia while the national championship was going on. That was really cool. And let's remember, Columbia is only about an hour, 10 minutes from Augusta. So this was a dream couple of days. The ratings double. Let me tell you something. If I had a choice of watching the men's tournament in its entirety or the women's, I'd watch that women's tournament we just had any time. And I know, Ben, you and Wrong Side would agree.
Yes.
So, Rick, there is a natural follow-up here, though, because Donnie's point is the 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time start of Monday's national championship game for the men's tournament is a reason the ratings were lower. It's not the reason why the women outdrew the men for the first time, as this has been standard at least for the past half decade. But is there anything that the NCAA tournament / its television partners can do to move up the tip time of a national championship game at the men's NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's in the contract. It doesn't automatically have to happen at that time, and there's always the balance between West Coast, East Coast. 620 West Coast would have been great if there was a West Coast school. Problem is the 920, especially with UConn, and the games are effectively over at halftime and maybe 15 minutes left in the game, people are going to go snoozing, and they did. And so the trade-off always, what time is the Super Bowl kickoff? Eastern time every year, about 6:20. That's usually the balance for mega games. The problem is it is not. And with TBS, you could blame TBS versus CBS for the ratings. It wasn't that. We caught lightning in a bottle. When you look back at the last 50 years of seminal events that define the future of the business, this run of Connecticut and on the women's side, and South Carolina and Iowa and Caitlin Clark is the most important weekend, maybe in the history of women's sports.
And how about this? Superstars do drive that ratings, Rick. You take a look now. The expected number one overall pick in the WNBA draft is going to be Caitlin Clark. You take a look at the WNBA announces 36 of 40 Fever games will be on national TV, driving those ratings here.
Yeah, how about if the Fever says, I'm going to take Camilla. I'm going to take Camilla. I'm going to take somebody else. That ain't happening. And by the way, the ticket prices for the season Fever tickets, off the charts, about a 200% increase, StubHub and otherwise. And so it is major, not only now, but it's major next year and the year after. She'll be missed in college, but, they'll be there. And she's already created the iconic shift as far as sports is concerned.
So, Rick, I'll give you the final minute here. I'll ask you this. Sao Paulo, Brazil matchup on the opening weekend of the NFL year has been determined. It's the Packers and the Eagles. Why does the NFL want to play in Brazil? And then take your final 20 seconds and tell us more facts about Augusta.
Yeah, they want to play in Brazil because it's a country they haven't yet penetrated. And Steve Ross, by the way, I was part of that group, went down a few years ago to see if a Dolphin trade-off would be happening. No, Eagles did. This is going to be a great idea on a Friday after the Thursday, all right? So that's my answer there. But here's the thing I wanted to tell you. So I'm sitting on 15 fairway, and I see a ball in the woods come over kind of by my feet. And then I see Koepka, practice round, walking over, and he's not walking. He tells his caddy, throw the ball out there. So people are yelling, why are you throwing out of the woods? You got to practice in here. And he said, over the next 4 days, I will not be in the woods. How does that sound? Have a good day. Talk to you guys later. Come back after the break.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals, saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Mark Zinno joins us now live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid as the man in the middle. A seismic shift in college basketball officially occurring yesterday. So the mouth in the South, with all of his SEC knowledge, will talk to us about the change in venue and the change in home for John Calipari. No longer in Lexington, now in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Mark Zinno, thank you for joining us live right here on this Thursday on TEL.
Gentlemen, great to be with you as always. My contrarian player of the day is you both are wearing shades of green for the Masters. I, of course, am wearing all blue, so, I figured I'd change it up a little bit.
But does that mean anything, or you just wanted to wear blue?
You know what? Honestly, it was just the first shirt I picked that matched the jacket. I didn't really put much thought into it.
Okay.
There you go.
Fair enough. I did wear green for Masters Thursday, so I guess in a way it is contrarian. All right, Zinno, let's talk about what we saw this week in college basketball. We'll get some thoughts on the end of the season and the national championship game on Monday in just a few moments, but really the main storyline leading up to the national title game on Monday night in Phoenix was John Calipari abruptly leaving Kentucky to become the new head coach at Arkansas. It was rumored, it was reported, and then yesterday made official. What do you make of Cal's move, leaving Big Blue Nation and now calling the Hogs?
I mean, I'm still stuck between answering one of two questions. Is this more a reflection on the state of Kentucky or more about the upside that Arkansas may present as a job or at least as a program within the SEC? And I'm not sure there's really a good answer to either one of those. I mean, I think that there is a little bit of a reflection that Kentucky might not be the job that we think it is anymore, or at least one of the greatest basketball coaches of our generation feels like winning there is not as easy as it used to be. But there's also a little bit of, there has to be some legitimacy to what Arkansas as a program, the way they've risen in the last 3 or 4 years and have put themselves in, with the exception of this year, obviously. Eric Musselman did a fantastic job at playing an up-paced tempo that was fun to watch. Like, put butts in the seats at Bud Walton and, all of a sudden got this program into what people believe should have been a Sweet 16 program year in and year out. So I think both of those things probably have a little dose of truth to them. But, in the big picture, I think this still resonates more about Kentucky's not a job you leave on your own. You either get fired or you retire because you've done enough there to warrant retiring. Like, there's not many people that pick up and decide, hey, I guess what? One of the blue bloods in this country, I guess I'm just going to walk away from it because there might be something better out there. I mean, is this really an upgrade for Cal? At best, it's a lateral promotion, if that's such a thing. And, now he's just going to go take on a new challenge.
Mark, Cal was really good at Kentucky. Now, do we have the expectations a little bit too high where he should have won 4 and 5 national championships with the talent he got in there? Maybe so. But a 32-11 tournament record, 4 Final Fours, and a championship. My question to you is, with Cal leaving Kentucky and going to Arkansas, sometimes coaches try to reevaluate their position and say, well, Kentucky, I was all in. Just give me the best players, one and dones. Let's see if we can make a run to the tournament. And it didn't end with as many championships as most of Kentucky expected. Do you think he's going to change his stripes a little bit going to Arkansas, maybe more transfers, more players that can be cohesive and play for 4 years? Or is he just going to bring his brand of, get ready, we're going to be unbelievable recruits, and we'll see how it turns out?
It is interesting, given the NIL and the transfer portal and the sort of free agency that exists in college sports today, and now particularly with basketball, where, one and dones are still theoretically a thing, but for the most part, it's, guys are one and done at any given school that they want. I mean, does Cal have some measure of control more at Arkansas to build with 2 or 3 core guys for 2 or 3 seasons? I don't know if that's really the case. I mean, honestly, I think the NIL deal has sort of thrown everybody upside down. I don't think there's any more legitimacy to a player leaving Kentucky after 1 year and wanting to go play somewhere else for X, Y, and Z reasons than a player leaving Arkansas and wanting to go play somewhere else for X, Y, and Z reasons. Whether that's, hey, guess what? Arkansas is it's a Power 5 program, but is it one of the elite programs that may get you to the next level? I don't necessarily know that that's the case. There may be other programs and other ways and other coaches that can do that. So not everybody can play for Coach Cal. I think that's fair to say, and that's not a pejorative against him, but he's a very different brand of coach and one that still has a little bit of that old guard in him, where it's I say, you do. You don't have really a say in this conversation. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. There's still some of that here. I just don't know how it's going to play at Arkansas if it's any different than it was at Kentucky.
You know, Arkansas is a very interesting basketball program because if you were not alive in the late 80s and 90s under Nolan Richardson, you might be thinking this is not a team that is perennially one of the powerhouses in the sport. But in that decade plus under Nolan Richardson, they won an NCAA tournament title. They reached 6 Final Fours. They were a powerhouse in the sport, and Eric Musselman brought them back. Not this year, but they made 3 consecutive Sweet 16s from 2021 to 2023. And those first 2 big dance trips, they made it all the way to the Elite 8. The Razorbacks are in a good place. You need more evidence of that? Look at Calipari's introduction yesterday. John Tyson, the billionaire heir of Tyson Foods, the chicken company, was given a standing ovation, and they played Chicken Fried by Zach Brown Band as he stood up in Bud Walton, and everybody saluted his hard work of bringing Coach Cal to Fayetteville. John Calipari had a great line in his introductory press conference when he said, "I've met with a team. There is no team. It's the NIL and transfer portal era. When you have a change in leadership, a lot of players look to leave and to find a better destination for themselves. There is a lot to build now at Bud Walton in Fayetteville, but expectations are going to be the NCAA tournament at bare minimum and probably the second weekend of the big dance. It's the very same expectations, they're going to have in Lexington. That is why John Calipari was kind of shown the door, not fired because of the buyout, but of course did not have the belief from Mitch Barnhart, the AD in Lexington, and Big Blue Nation. They have not reached, has Kentucky, one of the all-time winningest programs in the sport, the second weekend of the big dance since 2019. Kentucky wants that, needs that, frankly deserves that as a basketball blue blood. And yesterday, Zinno, an electric moment on this show. In our final segment, John Rothstein was here. He's looking at his phone. He had to dart quickly because he was getting calls. His phone was blowing up. Sources telling John Rothstein that Kentucky plans to officially meet with Baylor's Scott Drew regarding its head coaching vacancy in the near future. Led to a great day on social media in the college basketball realm. What would you say of this hire if it happens? Would this be a good hire for Kentucky to get Scott Drew?
I would lean yes. And look, more than anything, the style of play that Scott Drew brings is probably more going to play well with the fan base. Like, look, if you want to bring a defensive style coach and one who's going to slow it down and muck it up and win games ugly, that's all fine and good. But the minute you have a 3-game losing streak, only because you're scoring 62 points a game, the entire fan base at Kentucky is going to revolt because it's not what they're used to doing. They're used to seeing teams fill up the bucket and fill up the stat sheet on the regular. So at least if you're getting Scott Drew, Baylor's up-tempo offense and the rate that they shoot threes, that'll play well for fans in Rupp Arena, and at least it'll be fun and exciting. You just got to be able to figure out some sort of defense and how you're going to play it better than at least what they did this year. So, yeah, I think Scott Drew is the guy that I would be drawn to. I got to wonder this, guys, and is it fair to ask, is Kentucky still the desirable job that we all assume it is? I know it is, but is it really, if you're looking at, hey, give me the top 10 best jobs in college basketball right now, is Kentucky really there? Like, are we teetering on?
Unequivocally, yes.
Okay, but
without a doubt, yes.
No, Alabama's better.
I would argue.
These guys are ridiculous.
I would argue that it certainly doesn't have the same solidification with inside the top 5 that it used to, and that there are programs right now that are elevating that look a little bit more attractive. I mean, look, filling John Calipari's shoes is not going to be easy, right? Like, you never want to be the guy after the guy. Look, Ben, look at the look on your face. Go
guy
ahead.
After the guy. They haven't been in the Final Four since 2015. This is Kentucky. The guy after the guy. They haven't reached the Sweet 16 since 2019. It's not like they're coming off a national championship run. This isn't 2013. Cal is one of the all-time legends in college basketball. If you get Kentucky to the Sweet 16, you will have done more for that basketball program in the last half decade than John Calipari did. It's Kentucky. They don't care about lottery picks. They don't care about first-round selections. They care about winning at Kentucky. That's what Big Blue Nation is.
I'm not debating that. I mean, Donnie, back me up here. Like, I mean, does it feel like Kentucky has the same allure that it used to?
It does. Here's my point on this. other coaches out there, like Kentucky job opens up, you should have NBA coaches resigning right now to run the Kentucky. Jay Wright should have already left the studio going like, this is my dream job. I can't wait. It's open. The expectations for that NBA-style team in Lexington is Calipari was there, brought the best recruits in, had that enormous chip on his shoulder, and only got one national champion. If I'm Nate Oates, why am I leaving Alabama to go to that where they go, okay, in 2 or 3 years, if I haven't won a national championship or multiples, I'm out as well. I can live on a king in campus. The same way Hurley up at UConn. He should already be at Kentucky this morning being announced. But why would he go to Kentucky when he could stay at UConn and be a god, make the same amount of money, and win national championships here? Kentucky, it's not 19. It's not Adolph. Adolph Rupp should come back here and coach that basketball team. That's the only guy that can resurrect Kentucky.
Are you blaming Lexington? Are you blaming Kentucky for John Calipari's failed style in the last 5 years? Because we have learned that in the NIL era, it's not about just the one and dones? Look at every national champion that we have seen since 2017.
Ben,
I'm taking crazy pills.
No, you're not taking pills. I would argue that NIL.
Listen to you guys, I am.
Taking an attractive quality away from every job because it's 10 times tougher to win now.
Yep.
Every job.
Kentucky.
Every job you just said. Kentucky is one of the three best jobs you could ever have in college basketball. Don't listen to these guys. Jay Wright, don't listen to Donnie.
Yes.
Major League Baseball.
Paul Mashburn, yes.
Boy, if you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like CJ Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals, saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
laughing. I'm like rooting for Kentucky because I'm listening to Mark Zinno and Donnie Rightside during the break, and I want to be a member of Big Blue Nation in Lexington. What is happening to my brain? Spend too much time with these guys, and you never know. Anyway, now we go around Major League Baseball. Next thing I know, I'm going to start cheering for the Yankees because Zinno's going to be mad they're off to a 10-3 start and lost to the Marlins yesterday and didn't complete the sweep. I don't know what's happening. Mark Zinno, yesterday the Yanks did not complete the sweep up in the Bronx, but the Fish get their second win of the year. They're now 2-11, but the Yankees still one of two teams alongside the Dodgers that have gotten a double-digit win so far this year at 10. Are you optimistic about the start up in the Bronx?
I mean, listen, it's obviously a great start, and there's no reason to be pessimistic about it, but I still am a little bit guarded and trying to figure out, as the 4-game sweep of the Astros aside, they took on a Diamondbacks team that kind of is flailing a little bit, and then they catch the Marlins. I mean, it's not like, they're running through the AL East. They did beat up on the Blue Jays a little bit, which was surprising because Toronto's had a great record against them, but I think there's reason to be optimistic. I just wonder how long this pitching staff is going to hold up. I mean, we knew they were going to hit. I don't think there was a question of whether they were going to be able to score runs, right? The lineup was the names themselves are reason to believe that the Yankees are always going to be in games because they can score. But what is this rotation going to look like? Again, Nestor Cortez is still not, a guy that I trust. Carlos Rodon has looked good. He's looked much better than he did last year, but is that really, a valid guy that we're going to trust? And then after that, throw me a bone here. I'm not really sure what Marcus Stroman is yet. I'm not really sure what the fourth and fifth starters are. So I think there's still wait and see mode for me, but I'm not upset at the 10-3 start at all.
Yeah, we're taking a look at that American League East overall, and I like the start for the division. It's supposed to be this way. There's supposed to be those teams fighting for it. Now, the one maybe surprise, which is crazy, is the Boston Red Sox at 7-5, because most of us expected that they just don't have the talent to compete in that division. But if we're lining up just the Yankees itself at 10-3, I think that's an unbelievable start, not just because of the record mark. Coming out of spring training, it was doom and gloom. It was, Aaron Rodgers. Now you got me tripped up on this. Aaron Judge.
What is happening here?
Aaron Judge coming out of the gate here, injuries right away. Garrett Cole coming out of the gate where you might have lost him for the entire season. I think this bodes well for the Yankees here because it would have been surprising to me if you said, okay, the Yankees stumbled out of the gate and say, well, yeah, that's probably what was going to happen. They don't have their best foot forward just yet. Juan Soto's been very good for the Yankees. For me, Mark, I love them at 10-3, and I think it's a better vision on the horizon for the Yankees than when I actually started the season coming out of spring training for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, I still don't think they're the favorites to win the division. I'm not going to walk away from the Orioles, who I think are a very, very good baseball team.
Wow.
And I think I think their rotation right now has less questions than the Yankees does. And, the big question for the Orioles is what will their bullpen do? If their bullpen can hold up and pitch like it did last year, I think they're going to win a division. If they don't, then guess what? It's probably the Yankees' division to lose at this point in time. Tampa getting off to a bad start is kind of surprising. But they always seem to level off. So it's way too early to I even think, begin to call the American League East race. But again, with the Yankees, the other concern for me, just generally as a fan, is Aaron Boone and his bad management style of yanking starters in the fourth and fifth inning and depending on a bullpen to save your backside, this early in the season. Guess what? That's going to come back to bite in August and September. And that could be a problem if they're in a race, So I just I'm hesitant to really go all in yet on the Yankees and see what happens.
So, Zinno, you mentioned the Baltimore Orioles, a big win yesterday on the road in Fenway against the Red Sox. They were down early. They respond late, scoring all of their runs following the sixth inning and led by the young core at the bottom of the lineup. We'll talk Jackson Holliday in just a moment, but you mentioned the bullpen for the Orioles. It was Craig Kimbrell getting his second save already of this young MLB season. Two-part question for you. Did you bet the O's to win the American League East division? And if so, what have you liked out of the start so far?
I bet the Orioles team total over wins at 90.5.
Gotcha.
And so I'm happy with that. I don't know if they'll win the division at 91, 92 wins, but I think they go over that number. There's no reason, barring any major injuries, that they shouldn't. And look, this is a lineup I think that has continued to be undervalued as one of the best 1 through 9 in all of baseball. I mean, if you follow this team at all, tell me where the outs are. I mean, from top to bottom, whether it's Gunnar Henderson or, Cedric Mullins or whatever it may be. I mean, Austin Hayes, they've got bats up and down this entire lineup. Anthony Santander. I mean, and that's all, by the way, losing a guy like Trey Mancini over the past 2 years that ended up somewhere else. So, this is a very consummate professional lineup. They're well coached. They are going to continue to score runs all season long. Don't be surprised to see them one of the top 3 teams in the AL when it comes to run scored when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I love that lineup. I love it. I'm an RBI guy, and certainly the Baltimore Orioles can certainly pound away in that division, no question about it. But they did do some things yesterday which was un-Oriole-like, which includes bringing up your young prospects when you feel they're ready to come up, not when they come up because it's going to cost you the least amount of money here and you can control them long term. Jackson Holliday comes up. How are you feeling about that move?
I mean, look, that's obviously, Peter Angelos, rest in peace, but that's a clear divergent change from the previous ownership group.
Absolutely.
That could run things. And I lived in Baltimore for 10 years. I covered the team. I covered the Angeloses and the way they did business. And it was poor, which is why they stunk for a long time. And once, Peter got out of the way and his son took over and kind of let the baseball people do the baseball thing. Look what's happened. The Orioles have been a great team. I'm not surprised. And part of the reason they brought him up this early is because last year with Gunnar Henderson, now there's an incentive in baseball where you're going to get a draft pick for bringing a guy up earlier, whereas opposed to you tried to hold on to service time. Last year, the Orioles missed that deadline with Gunnar Henderson and didn't get the draft pick. He ended up winning the Rookie of the Year, and now they're going to try to do it again with Jackson Holliday in the bigs. And I think I saw somewhere on social media, like Craig Kimbrell actually got out Jackson Holliday's father at one point, like struck him out, and now he's on the team with his son, which, he says Craig Kimbrell's really old and still has weird hair. But beyond that, this is just an incredible move. I think that, look, there's so much young talent here, and really the challenge for the Orioles isn't like, what do you do with it all? It's how do you keep it all? Because and look at the Braves as a model and what they've done and kind of see what's happened now. Alex Anthopoulos went out and gave all these guys pre-arbitration contracts, right? Signed the Spencer Striders, the Austin Rileys, and everybody else. Now with Spencer Strider having his second Tommy John, you question whether that was the right move or the wrong move. But that's what the Orioles may need to start looking to do with some of these guys is offer them $10, $12, $15 million now instead of waiting to the back end of arbitration. One, when they go and fight arbitration and are going to get $20 million regardless, you're going to have to sign them to a $25, $30 million deal. So if you believe in these young kids and they're that good, it would behoove the Orioles to get 6-7 year contracts done now at a much cheaper rate.
Listen, it wouldn't be that crazy to see Craig Kimbrell strike out Matt Holliday, who finished his final year in Major League Baseball in 2018. 15 years in the bigs, 6 with the Rockies, 8 with the Redbirds, that being the Cardinals. A 7-time All-Star, and Jackson is picking up where he left off. To Zinno's point, Gunnar Henderson last year for Baltimore, unanimous American League Rookie of the Year. If that is the same for Jackson Holliday, and we'll look at those odds in just a moment, Baltimore is gifted an additional first-round pick to add on to a young core that is already probably over-exceeding and performing at a higher level. And Jackson Holliday, one day in the bigs and the second best price to win American League Rookie of the Year. 3-1, less than a $1 behind Wyatt Langford, who is, of course, the outstanding rookie in Texas. Could Jackson Holliday win American League Rookie of the Year and go 2 straight for the Orioles organization?
I mean, look, what did the Dodgers years ago in the 90s, would they do 3 straight with Eric Karros and a couple other guys? Was it 3, I think, in a row that they won? So it's not impossible for them to get back to Rookie of the Years. And is Holliday, it's so early to tell right now. The fact that they installed him as the second favorite is a little bit bonkers after one game. I don't know if at that price I'm really willing to look at him with guys like Kowser out there and some other, arms that I think that might have a shot to do it. But, it's going to be fun to watch this young kid play. By all accounts, everybody thought he should have made the team coming out of camp. He was sent down to AAA and tore the cover off the ball there, and it didn't take all but, 10 games to get him back up into the big leagues. So there's a ton of reason to believe that he has that level of ability.
Just to follow up quickly, Donnie, before you go in, 5 straight NL Rookie of the Years for the Dodgers from 92 to 96. Started by Eric Karros, then Mike Piazza, Raul Mondesi, Hideo Nomo, and Todd Hollinsworth, rounding out 5 straight Rookie of the Year winners for the Dodgers. Go ahead, Donnie.
Hollinsworth.
By the way, the Dodgers. That's crazy. They've always been so good. I mean, when you talk about like the minor league system and the scouting department for the Dodgers, it laps the entire field in baseball in that international market. That's great. It's no surprise that the Dodgers actually did that. And also no surprise that the Dodgers are 10-5 to open the season. So my question to you, after a loss yesterday to Minnesota, all that hype on the Dodgers, like 10-5 is still a very good record in April here as you start to wind in. Are we surprised that the Dodgers started 10-5? Was that the expectation? Or did you figure that maybe even more hype and certainly a record that would be better than 10-5 to open the season here, Mark?
I mean, be honest with you, like the Dodgers lineup does it feel like they've underperformed a little bit, or is it me? Like,
it does.
I mean,
except Will Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they are. I would have figured they were scoring 8 or 9 runs every game. Look, they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark. We know that. And that's, to be expected because that's kind of what they do. But, I just, you got to look bigger than game to game. The game they lose 3-2, those are going to happen. I still have my questions about the Dodgers rotation that seems to be unproven at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
When it is all said and done, we've seen teams, and again, I've lived this as a Yankee fan. You mash your way. I say it repeatedly. You mash your way through 162 games to get to the postseason, and guess what? Your bats go silent when you face three really good pitchers in the postseason. But for the Dodgers, I wonder how much their pitching is going to hold up. How much is their bullpen going to be taxed? Remember last year, their bullpen was really bad to start the year. Settled down and kind of got things done. It's a kind of middle of the road bullpen start for them this year, but it takes a lot to win the whole thing, guys. I mean, for as much as we're going to sit here and pump the Dodgers and there's reason to, if they fall short of a World Series, it kind of feels like a big failure.
It's certainly a failure. It's World Series or bust. That's not even National League Championship Series or bust and come up short. You don't invest all that you have into this Dodgers lineup and come up short of a World Series appearance or probably even a World Series championship. And they are still the favorites at plus 320 to do that, nearly $2 in front of the Braves at 5-1. The Astros, the shortest number out of the American League, plus 750. The Yankees, plus 850 before we fall off to the Phils at 13-1. Zinno, it's early, 2 weeks into this MLB season. Any market move that you have seen, any value that you think still lies out there in these first 2 weeks?
I mean, should we break up the Oakland A's and go over their win total at this point in time? Like this is kind of the most disappointing, surprising thing is that the Oakland A's are winning more games than we thought they would at this. Like the Marlins 1-9, we get it, we understand it, but like, why are the Oakland A's going out and beating the Texas Rangers? Why are they just 4-8 at this point and not like 1-11? So, I mean, hey, win 33% of your baseball games, you're going to go over that season win total. There is that.
For sure.
They got a chance here. A hot start for them may just be enough for them to get over their season win total. I mean, had the Astros in last place? Nope. We had the A's in last place, and it's the other way around.
The A's, 4-8, a half game in front of the Stros for what is the bottom of the American League West. Mm-hmm. Mark Zinno, we appreciate the time here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. Best bet of the Masters, quick.
Except for the win.
All right, shock. All right, back on the early line next.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Ending out this second hour of a Thursday live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. A huge final 4 days in the NBA regular season, and maybe the fifth and final was the biggest day of the entirety of it for the reigning champs in the Denver Nuggets. A 9-point home victory, covering as a 6.5-point favorite last night at altitude over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Puts Denver in front as the number one seed in the Western Conference by a game with only 2 games left on the docket. So how big of a win was that for the Nuggets? What can they do in the Western Conference once again? That was the question for you in Fade the Public. At SportsGrid on Twitter, will the Nuggets win the Western Conference? Simple question with a couple of simple choices. Yes or no. Nearly 60% of the public DRS saying the Nuggets are going to go back-to-back. As the reigning Western Conference title winners, they're going to do it for a second consecutive year. Which way did you vote, Donnie?
I actually voted yes on this, and also these are slanted, polls as we take a look at the day after a monster win from the Denver Nuggets. I always like to say it would have been interesting if the same poll comes up if yesterday you saw on the road the Minnesota Timberwolves upend the Denver Nuggets and say, okay, now we're going to be the number one overall seed here. But I just see the way they played last year and went through the playoffs with not a lot of respect and won the NBA championship, a whole hum effort this year during the regular season, only to come back and take down that number one overall seed, which it looks like they're going to get. Good luck beating them at home in Denver in elevation 4 times in a 7-game series. I don't think it's happening here. It's a great Western Conference, don't get me wrong, but I think the cream of the crop is the Denver Nuggets.
It's a really good point, DRS, for a team that out of their 41 regular season home games, won 33 of them, and they were 21-19-1 against the spread. It's going to be difficult when you have to go into Denver at altitude in any playoff series and knock off the Nugs. Well, look at those Western Conference title odds when hour number 3, live right here on this Thursday, begins in less than a minute.
smarter to be on SportsGrid.